I'm finna turn Chinese. Oh, I'm gonna be not Chinese. I really wanna be Chinese. Please God, when I wake up, let me be Chinese. Oh, I'm gonna be not Chinese. I really wanna be Chinese. I got your bitch down on her knees saying, baby, baby, take me to Chongqing. Take me to Wuhan. Take me to Beijing.
Have you been to China before?
No, I haven't actually. I would like to go. My dad is a musician as well, and he but classical music, and he tours in China a lot, and I definitely would like to go. And like the cities I name in the songs are just cities that I like do want to visit, like that I've like looked into and stuff. Like Chongqing in particular looks really cool. Like it's like the cyberpunk city, it's so.
So I hear words like community, elevating the poor, infrastructure,
Yeah.
efficiency, social contract with the government, which are a very beautiful picture. I'm curious, where do you get your information about China is like this?
Oh, I mean, I'm not sure if China is like that. Totally. I'm sure there's a lot of problems. I'm sure that there's a lot of critiques, and I'm not uh I'm not like a China uh I'm not like a weeaboo for China or whatever. I'm not like uncritical support for CCP or anything like this. This is just sort of like what I'm describing is more like the the f- the fantastic the fantasy value proposition that undergirds these memes, right?
近来，成为中国人 （Becoming Chinese） 在 TikTok 等社交媒体平台上走红，许多美国网友发布标题为“今天我成为中国人了，一夜之间我成为了中国人”的短视频，内容多以喝热水、穿拖鞋、打太极等生活习惯为主，呈现一种对中国式生活方式的模仿与想象。在这股风潮中，来自加州的歌手丹尼尔·凯洛夫创作了一首带有反讽意味的歌曲。视频中，他一边甩头一边高喊：“我厌倦了不是中国人。”该视频在 Instagram 上的播放量已超过80万次，并引发广泛讨论。凯洛夫此前也曾就这一现象接受《纽约时报》的采访。今天我们邀请他接受专访，谈谈这首歌背后的动机，以及他如何看待这场围绕身份、文化与时代情绪展开的讨论。Hi, Daniel. Thank you for talking with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So first of all, can you tell us the story behind how this song was created?
Oh, sure. Yeah. It was kind of an accident. I produce most of my own music, and I had that beat made, and I was just sort of usually when I have an instrumental made and I don't really know what the words are going to be, I'll just sort of make like little noises and sort of like phonemes and stuff and just kind of grunt to get the rhythm first. And so I was working on I had that instrumental, and I was just like making little sounds over it, and kind of accidentally, as like a scratch vocal, I started saying like I'm finna turn Chinese, not not expecting the to keep that in the song, but I was like once I had that kind of on the track, it was just making me laugh so much, and that I was like I sent it to a couple friends of mine, and I was like, what do you think of this? Because it was just like I just thought it was really funny, and they were like, my sister was like, don't do that. And then but I don't know, it just made me sort of smile, and I was thinking about the memes, and that kind of some people think that I like invented that meme. It's not quite true. I had like seen something about like becoming Chinese before that, I think. So uh I don't know. It something about it just seemed like better than what I was anything else I tried. So I was like, I think I'll make a video with that version of it and see like, see if that does well or resonates or whatever. And the first video I posted, the song wasn't actually done yet. I just had the beginning of it, and it just went crazy. So
Mhm.
right before, actually, funny enough, right before I was supposed to go to Japan, I was like the day before my trip, I was just sort of like frantically like getting it mixed and mastered and hitting up my distributor being like, hey, this is like blowing up on Instagram. I need you guys to like force it through in like 24 hours. So I turned it in, and while I was on the plane like going overseas, it released, and I posted another video. So like while I was traveling, not in China but in Japan, I like it just kept like sort of cascading and like blowing up. So I would be like walking around like the park or something and just be like, oh, 1 second guys, and just so it was I didn't really process that like the song had done well until I got back, and then my friends in LA were like, "Oh, did you think it was gonna be that big and stuff?" And I was like, "I mean, absolutely not. I thought I was gonna make one video. I didn't think I was gonna release the actual song." So, so
Mm,
that's kind of the story of like how I made it, I guess.
mhm.
But
Yeah.
the the thought process, I guess, behind it was, I think I had seen, at the time I made the song, that meme was like a really, really niche thing. I'd only seen like one or two things about like, and at the time I think the one that I saw was like, it's like a guy with like a long Fu Manchu like and like ceremonial kind of garb, and he's like flying in a car, and it's like I'm up at 3 a.m. China maxing when I have to be up for work at 7, and I was just like, I don't know, I just thought that was funny. I think that was the first one I saw, so I was just kind of thinking about the meme, I guess, but I hadn't really heard a song to go with it, and I just sort of I guess just I don't know, it just seemed like funny to me. And then after I posted the song, it seemed like it was just like everywhere, so it was just like really good timing. I'm not sure if I like how much I contributed, but so
So when you titled it, I finally want to be Chinese,
mhm.
and when you say I'm tired of not being Chinese, what do you
Yeah,
mean by that? Why did you
well,
choose this?
okay, so I think the kind of I actually was talking to the New York Times about this the other day. Basically, like I'll tell you kind of the same thing I told them, which is my theory on like why this joke and this trend kind of works in general. And I think on the surface, like the whole like I want to be Chinese thing, I think most of the reason why it like permeates so much is that it is just like funny, and a big part of humor is that like it's unexpected. I think it's like it's unexpected and kind of like from an American point of view, it seems almost like random that you would like want to become, that's like a new thing. It's funny. But I think under the surface, so that's like on the top, there's like this humor that works, right? And then underneath the surface, there's kind of like a genuine, I think for a lot of people, like in America specifically, a genuine desire to, if not become Chinese, become something else, right? Like, because it's become kind of brutal to live in America. And I think like a lot of people have like like a genuine desire to sort of like move somewhere, become something else, become something other than American, And I also think like, if you're at least like in my news cycle and my algorithm, you're mostly hearing bad news about America, whether it's our elections, some weird foreign intervention we're doing, healthcare, ICE, take your pick. So it's very pessimistic and not particularly bullish on America. But at least like from my point of view, you're mostly hearing like really impressive things from China, like, oh, hey, this country has lifted more people out of poverty than live in North America, or oh, there's these new trains that like float on, they don't even touch the rail, they like float, the healthcare system is and it kind of makes you go like, you know, dang, why don't we have that stuff? And maybe there is some genuine wish casting to like, if not be Chinese specifically, be part of a culture that has like an emergent sense of optimism and a nascent sense of like strength in the world. So I think that unconsciously that is kind of like in people's minds, and that's part of why the meme works and resonates so well. But I think most of the reason why it's like everywhere is just because it's funny to people, So I think those are the two levels on which it's working. There's like the surface thing, and then underneath there actually is some, uh, you know, uh, salience to it, I guess. So, um, yeah,
Have you
that,
have you been to China before?
no, no, I haven't actually. I would like to go. My dad is a musician as well, and but classical music, and he tours in China a lot, and I definitely would like to go. And like the cities I name in the songs are just cities that I like do want to visit, like that I've like looked into and stuff. Like Chongqing in particular looks really cool. Like it's like the cyberpunk city, it's so. But no, no, I haven't been, not yet. But
Mm.
soon, so.
So when you mention your dad, Chongqing, where do you get your information about these things? About
Hmm. I mean, honestly, I don't really know that much about China. Most of my I think part of the reason why it was cool to me originally is that it's one of the only places in the world that's still a little bit mysterious to me, I've like Europe, I've been to a ton. Latin America, I feel like I understand pretty well. And Japan and Korea, I've spent a lot of time in, but China is like this huge, you know, uh thing. And like I think one of the things that like intrigued me at first was this is like maybe a little bit silly, but like I remember when I was like 20, I was like Googling biggest cities in China, and I was like, whoa, like there's like 10 cities that I had never heard of that were double or more the population of like Los Angeles. And that just kind of blew my mind because I was like, here's a list of places that I mean, I've heard of like Beijing or whatever, but like, I've never heard of like Tianjin or these places at the time. And I'm like, there's millions of people living their lives with like hopes and dreams and, in this place that I don't even know the name of. And it's kind of cool to think about that and think that there's still like stuff in the world that you don't understand and that isn't just like, you know, uh, that isn't just like downstream from American hegemon. It's like its own thing, and it does kind of make the world feel a little bit like more mysterious and a little more like there's still adventures to,
So when you shared, you didn't know much about China, but from what you shared, I gathered that you still know something about China. For instance, you shared when you were 20, you were Googling China. What did you put in the Google research?
biggest cities in China or most populated cities in China because I think I was just sort of uh yeah, I I did. I was just looking for. Yeah, I think that was the phrase actually. So I think it was just fascinating to me that there were like massive cities that I had never heard of, and didn't. So I was like, so just like my first thing was oh, well, how many of these places are there? What's the biggest one? And then I was then what do these places look like? What's the food like? It's just it seemed like a whole other world that I I don't that I wasn't familiar with, and a culture I wasn't familiar with that has a huge you know place in the world. I mean, Japan was all like a lot of places in Asia kind of felt like that for me when I was growing up. I grew up in North Carolina, like in the American South, which is like, culturally as far away from anywhere in Asia as you could kind of get. But like China in particular just seemed like extremely interesting to me because I knew so little about it. And so.
Has your dad ever talked to you about his experience in China or who, like Chinese people he met?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, he likes going over there. I think he's done um two like piano tours, and I think both times he's had get out of here. Um I think both times he usually has like a guide, where he'll like in the city he lands, he has like a local kind of like person that shows him around. My dad is also a very well-traveled person who's, spent a lot of time in Europe and speaks a lot of languages. But in China, there's like no point of reference, for the language or
So, do you have any like peop Chinese people around to talk to or Chinese friends, or
yeah,
is it
yeah,
mainly online?
I have Chinese friends for sure. When the song came out, or like the first video, I was a little bit worried about like it being taken the wrong way, or it being like taken as like derogatory or racist or whatever. And I thought about it, I was like, well, I'm saying like I want to be Chinese. I'm saying good stuff about China. It's a little silly, but I feel like people will be okay with this. But when I posted the first video, the first comment was or one of the first comments was my friend Lydia, who is Chinese, saying, "As a Chinese, I support this." And I was like, "Okay, cool. I think that it'll I think this will be okay, So
Mhm.
I think the message is taken the right way, That was but um yeah. So I've got some Chinese American friends for sure. So.
So when the song came out, I'm sure like your Chinese friends would be talking, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Have you like asked them how you think about it? I mean, you mentioned Lydia, um,
Hmm.
or have you asked them about, what does it mean by people saying becoming Chinese?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It seems like every person in my life that's either Chinese or Chinese American like loves the song. Which is good because I never want to like, you know, the intention of the song was never to make fun of anyone. It was genuinely to be like make a funny song and um also that like I kind of do want to like go to China and I do like not uncritically but I do have like admiration for what China has been up to in the past decade and it does seem like a cool place so but every person of that's either Chinese or of Chinese ancestry in my life really likes it. Um, and they haven't really no one's really like been like, why did you do that or whatever. They're just like, yes, we like it, and
Mm,
so it seems just sort of like generally like people are pretty stoked on it. That's so
mm.
I don't know.
Have
Um,
have you asked them what's China really like? Or
mm.
what our Chinese cultures
Mm.
really are, since now it's such a big thing on social media.
Yeah, that's one thing I've been like kind of curious about is like, you know, okay, so, the meme, whatever, I don't really need to, but one thing I have been like curious about is like, wh like yeah, what is it like I to live in to live in like Beijing versus Los Angeles. What part of China are you from?
Oh, I'm from Xi'an.
Xi'an?
Yeah, it's also a big city. It's in the middle. It's very historical. It used to
And
be capital of 13 dynasties.
oh wow.
Mm.
And you live in New York now.
Yeah, yeah.
How would you compare those two places?
Good question. It's so different. I mean, Xi'an is my hometown. I grew up there. The scenery, the history, the culture, it's just total different culture. And New York is sort of like, it's very diverse, right?
Mm,
It's kind of made out of people from different places, diverse backgrounds. Whereas in China, because such a historical place, so it's more, yeah, it's just like a different culture for
mm.
sure. Yeah.
So yeah, like having a monoculture versus like a kind of mixed immigrant culture, but is there like what would you say in like day-to-day life is like the biggest difference?
That's actually a question I want to ask you first.
Hmm.
So I'll answer it later, but
Okay.
what when you say, want to become a Chinese, what
Hmm.
comes to mind? I know you're a visual person.
Hmm.
So if you can paint a picture of what does it mean for you to be Chinese, what would your daily life look like? Or
Hmm.
what's in your
Well,
imagination?
I think okay, in my imagination, and I feel a little bit like apprehensive to describe something I'm imagining that is a real place, right? But I
Just based
I
on the
think
information you know.
if I was gonna say like things about China that seem good to me, right, from an outside perspective, I would I would probably like talk about, compared to the United States, healthcare. It seems like okay, US culture right now seems to be largely set up to create a lot of benefit for the people at the top and total subjugation and pressure on the bottom. Whereas it seems like one of the principal goals of Chinese society right now is to elevate as many people out of poverty as possible, which is not the goal here. The opposite, I think, is if the goal. So and not being having a society that's ordered to put pressure on people at the bottom and extract resources up to the top leads to a lot of what people call atomization, or in simpler terms, alienation. So people you can see that in a lot of our political differences and a lot of the you know ideological differences that aren't actually ideological, but I digress. So, just alienation from your fellow people and lack of community, isolation. And I think it's rare in America to have a genuine sense of living in a community in your personal life. So, in my mind, there's more of a sense of community in China and more of a sense of responsibility to your position within society, and uh, a sense of pride and responsibility in society at large. I don't know how true that is, having not spent time there, but I think it's exhausting in the States sometimes to live in a place in a culture that doesn't encourage a sense of solidarity with your peers, and kind of just feels like a free for all, and like every person for themselves, and also that the systems that you're supposed to like rely on and pay taxes into and stuff like that don't work, or it seems like there's just like a general breakdown of infrastructure in the States where like, the police don't do their job. The roads, at least where I live, are, taxes are really high and the roads kind of break down. We have this enormously inefficient healthcare system that is actually more expensive than if we just had a centralized single payer one. So I think like uh, having uh, having a culture where there's an implicit kind of trust in that the systems work, that like public transportation works, hospitals work, and that overall the best interest of the kind of proletariat or um just common people class, whatever you want to call that, is a priority for leadership. I feel like that would be really different. I don't think people in the US are used to feeling that, or used to trusting conceptually that there is a social contract between them and their government. I think at this point, everyone just kind of assumes that the whole thing is, at best, kind of corrupt, at best, extremely corrupt, and at worst, actively evil and, satanic or whatever. So, I think, does that make sense? Like the just
Yeah.
kind of like difference wise, it's and I
Mhm.
think if there is anything that like people in America are unconsciously jealous of, it would be mostly that, is that, if I think that if there is like some wish casting going on for like whatever like becoming Chinese would mean to like an average American person who hasn't gone there, at least unconsciously, I think it would be that like I really wish that I lived in a place I was proud of, or that I felt like was taking care of me, or wanted to take care of me, or wanted to do something other than like grind me into a paste, and so I can like buy more stuff on Amazon or whatever. Um
So I hear words like community, elevating the poor, infrastructure,
yeah.
efficiency, social contract with the government, which are a very beautiful picture. I'm curious, where do you get your information about China is like this?
Oh, I mean, I'm not sure if China is like that. Totally. I'm sure there's a lot of problems. I'm sure that there's a lot of critiques, and I'm not uh I'm not like a China uh I'm not like a weeaboo for China or whatever. I'm not like uncritical support for CCP or anything like this. This is just sort of like what I'm describing is more like the 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 fantastic the fantasy value proposition that undergirds these memes, right? And as far as where I get my information from, uh I don't really know. I mean, it's I definitely don't claim to be like an expert in China or anything like that. I think it's more like
From the
I mean,
US media?
social media, not from US media. I'd say if anything from like social media, there's some Chinese like influencers and stuff I follow. Occasionally I'll read like a news story about some like technological development. I think the green plan, is that what they call it? Like the green plan is really interesting to me. I've been like the goal to be carbon neutral with all the solar panels and stuff. That information I am just like getting from the news. As far as like what I think life might be like there, it's more like slice of life, kind of like either expatriate people who have moved to China or Chinese influencers that I follow, or or just talking to people like in my life. But you know, I
Mm-hmm.
have no idea what it would actually be like to live there. Like I could move there and I'd be like, dang, this sucks actually. But I just don't know. It's very I feel a little bit like so careful about what I'm saying just because I haven't been there, so I don't want to make like any generalizations.
From what I'm hearing, you are sharing, it's more like a fantasy kind of imagination or feeling. Um,
in in the
where,
context of the meme, yeah. And I don't know if it's like I don't know if those like my theory is like those memes aren't really about like China specifically. Like there's not like I think I mean they are, but I think what they're more about is like desire to like be something else. That's like my theory on why those like memes are prescient. But I think like the reason why it's become like it's China identified as the thing you want to be versus like, somewhere else, like, is that like, regardless of whatever problems are going on in China and regardless of what the reality of daily life is versus, what the propaganda of it is, I think there's like the fact of the matter is that like China seems like a nascent and ascendant culture, and it feels like ours is one that is like rapidly degenerating and that everyone's very fed up with. I think
Mhm.
like regardless of what it is actually like to live there, I think the part of this is like wanting to be part of a functioning and uh optimistic. Like I'm a little bit older. I remember parts of like the 90s and like the early
How old are
2000s,
you?
pre 2008. And like I remember when I was very, very, very little, um, have it there was I don't know if it was just because I was smaller, but there was a sense of like, did you ever there's this this author called Francis Fukuyama, I think his name is. It's this guy wrote this book in the 90s, right? And it was the name of the book was The End of History.
Mm,
And the thesis of the book was that like, okay, history in terms of like big world events and like redrawing the lines of countries, that's basically over, right? This is what he says in the book. And that what we've settled into is basically like neoliberal economic order with American Western world hegemony underpinning it all and like backing up the currency and stuff. And we're going to be and in this book his point is we're going to be in that forever, which sounds so ridiculous in the moment in time we're in now, but at the time that book came out, I think uh you know when that book released, like people really believed that. Like that was, like, so I think we're all kind of like as Americans dealing with like the psychological sort of trauma, I guess, for lack of a better word, of going from total assuredness of like, that you're at the center of the universe and that uh that the universe is perfectly balanced and you're at the center of it, right? Which doesn't really make sense, but that's the way people really thought. Like that was a book that was taken seriously. And I don't think anyone would think that even for a second now. And that wasn't that long ago. So I think kind of like grappling with that, and there's different ways that people deal with that, like internally in their own inner cosmology, right? Like some people are like, well, uh the fact that we're not going to be the world hegemon forever is not that bad. We should take care of the people who live here. That's my point of view. Some people are like, hey, listen, forget that. We actually are still the global superpower. In fact, more so than ever. And that's like the Trump kind of solution for that is to like, do more and more reckless uh actions and, more fascistic qualities and stuff like that. So, and I think it's just whether, whether or not someone would actually like to like move to China, whether they would actually like it or something, knowing that there's this whole entirely different alternative superpower, I think is very intriguing to people. And maybe that gets in your head unconsciously into and kind of as a joke and kind of as a genuine like, you know, get me out of here type of thing. You say like, uh hey, guess what? I'm Chinese now. You know what I mean? It's like that's sort of where like the truth of the joke kind of like shimmers through a little bit, underneath the funniness or like because like the good memes like do say at least something about the
Mm.
condition that they're created in, right? They're not like some of them are just nonsense, but like the ones that like kind of stick around, there is some like truth of the true
So,
buddy, you've got to stop distracting me. There is some kind of like societal truth that they speak to most of the time, So, and as for the just the turning Chinese trend in general, that's really how I see it. Whether it's I don't think it's necessarily a um like CCP apologist meme or it's a full-throated endorsement of anything specific about China. More it's like um wish casting for some sort of like alternative to living in the US right now, living in Europe right now. And it seems to be an alternative that has some valence to it and does seem to like at least in some sense work in terms of like like people can get medicine over there, but the people can like the home ownership rate is really high. So it's more like I think just a desperation for some alternative to American life, to put it
mm.
succinctly.
Would you say that what you just shared, it's more about this trend in your song, it's more about truth in the States. You felt a certain degree of delusion.
Hmm.
You're delusioned by the reality that's happening in the States rather than truth in China.
I
Ver-
would say, yeah, I would say that's what the memes are about, right? I think my song, like, I'm not trying to make any kind of like political point in my song. I just thought it was very funny and it seemed to kind of resonate. But those memes, right? Like just the turn, I'm gonna like become Chinese, glimpse into how Chinese my mind has become. Take your pick, everything in this category. I've seen it all, as you can imagine, because like both making them and then just seeing what other people have done with that. Um, that meme is as far as I can tell, mostly an American meme. So
So
what
it's more,
I'm, yeah, like my critique of the meme itself is from an American lens, And I think like what it is the reality of life and what life is likely to be in the immediate future in America versus the fantasy of what China could be like, right? That's kind of what you're seeing. You're seeing sort of that dissonance reconcile itself in a moment of humor. I think because I think a lot of people are really confused where those memes come from, and that's my impression of why the joke is so salient right now. So
Mm. Do
does that
you,
make sense?
uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you actually want to live in China? Like, do you
Well,
actually want to live in China? It,
I don't know what it would be like. I haven't been, so I don't want to be like, yes, and then I go and move there. I'm like, oh my God, I actually like this is not for me at all. But what I would really like to do is spend some time in China and actually like experience the culture. And you know what I really love to do is play some music in China. I have a lot of friends who tour and play festivals in China, and that they always say that it's awesome and that the crowds especially for like dance shows that it's just like people are like really really stoked to see uh to see music and like just kind of have like a moment of release or whatever. So I would definitely like to play shows in China and also hang out there. And then I think once I did those things, I would have a clearer idea of whether I would prefer living in. Also, China's a huge country with a lot of different cities. I mean, like live in China could mean like a million different things, I imagine, like like my life in LA is so different than my life in North Carolina. It's probably even a wider range of experiences you could have in a
Mhm.
country that size. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'd like to go there. I'd like to see what it's all about, and kind of, uh, uh, yeah, I don't know, play some music there. I'm not against the idea.
Yeah, yeah. Just curious. When, the trend becoming Chinese, this word Chinese, and in your song, this word Chinese, from what you shared, I felt like it's not about the Chinese people living in China, but more about an idea of what being Chinese is like versus what's being American in your generation is like now. Is that correct? What does this
Yeah,
word mean to you? Like
I think,
culturally,
yeah, yeah.
nationality, or
No, I think that's totally like where the meme comes from, right? I think I mean well, there's like a couple there's I mean like, there's a few layers, right? Like with all this stuff. Uh, but yeah, I think the idea it's definitely more about the idea of being Chinese than it is about something specific. And I think it's just, like about the conceptually kind of what I was saying earlier with you know desire to have to be in a economy that's on the upswing or be in a social contract with the government that actually cares about you or whatever. But then there also is like cultural fascinations like Chinese with the cuisine or hot lemon water or playing um, what is it, mahjong or go or something on the street and like smoking cigarettes and doing like the squat and stuff. So like, like you can fetishize any culture, like you can romanticize like any culture. Like people have also been doing that a lot with like Slavic culture lately, I've noticed, which is where my heritage is like um but I mean, so like there's like a superficial aesthetic like fascination, but then you know there's always unconscious, not to get like too like Freudian or whatever, like
Mhm.
um uh with this, but there's always like unconscious reasons why that cultural fascination exists, especially if it gets big enough, you know? Like
Mhm.
if one person can just be like obsessed with you know uh with like Bulgaria, and that's just like their special interest. But like if enough people are like enamored with some other culture in somewhere, there's like almost always like a socio-political reason for that, you know? So um uh, yeah, I definitely think you're right about that. Like it's, it's I don't think it's I don't think it is about uh necessarily like the granular details of like day-to-day life in
Mm,
like a specific part of China. I think it's
mm, of
definitely more about like what China represents, and because of what China at least somewhat represents to a certain type of person, there is like a profound fascination with the aesthetic of the culture, and
mm,
with the culture, downstream from that. That's
mm.
again, this is just my opinion as a
Yeah,
guy who made like a stupid song that a bunch of people liked. So like, it's not this is not like I'm not like a professor that
it's
like
a
has like a
popular
definitive.
song,
Yeah, I mean it's not like it's not like
of course.
at the end of the day, this is like my opinion,
Mm,
navel gazing about why this moment happened.
mm,
It's and sort of trying to figure out, because I have agreed to a couple interviews like this where they're like, why do you think this is popular? And like, I don't want to just give like an answer of just like, I don't know, it's funny, you know what I mean? So it's
mm.
it I do think yeah, I don't know. That's basically the crux of my theory, is that China represents this alternative vision for life, and all. I mean, it is the only other viable superpower. So, as America becomes more difficult to participate in, um, you start to kind of romanticize whatever the credible alternative is, and that manifests itself as jokes, that manifests itself as kind of Orientalism, being like very fascinated with like little facets of the culture and stuff like that.
Do you know that Chinese state-affiliated media outlets such as the Global Times have referenced and circulated your song? And how do you
No
feel about
way.
that?
Really?
Hmm.
The Global Times? Can you send me a link to that? That's crazy.
Of course.
That's cool. No, yeah, I was wondering because okay, I had no idea if my song had like made it to China at all. So I was like, I just didn't know. That's cool to hear. So,
Mm. So, you mentioned Chinese government, and before you mentioned CCP. What do you know about Chinese government?
so, oh man, I feel like I'm gonna look like a very unserious person,
Oh,
but
it doesn't have to be.
so uh
It's just a conversation.
my understanding in broad strokes, right, is that there was, something called the Cultural Revolution, right, which was basically where Chairman Mao tried to, or was effectively brute forcing the nation from feudal agrarian into a modern industrialized economy, and that was an extremely kind of like Russia, and like it was extremely violent and bloody, and but also very effective. And there's um I've uh with events in history that are like that big, you know, like some people have a lot of nostalgia for them. Like, you know, their family was like peasants and they got put in charge of a factory or something. Some people feel very strongly that that was the one of the greatest atrocities, you know, like I think they brought a lot of like academics out into the street and like shot them. You know, my family are academics, so I don't like that. Um and then you know, basically it's been like a rapid it is modern Chinese history, I guess. I don't know like all the dynasties and stuff, uh but and then it's been a rapid like full clip towards like um industrialization since then. I think up in it's been manufacturing a lot of like cheap goods have been manufactured there. And I think that's shifting a bit now where like, you know, people do sort of associate Chinese stuff that's made in China with like high quality now, which is interesting. But yeah, I mean, basically that's sort of my understanding of it is, you know, it's still technically uh a communist country, but it's been the main goal has been like rapid industrialization for the last like almost 100 years, I guess. Uh and you know, yeah. I don't know. I like man, I feel kind of like ridiculous trying to like describe Chinese history like
No, just yeah, feel free to share whatever
yeah.
you know, it's there's no um so you did mention what you knew about the political system now in China. Are you aware that China is often described as having extensive digital surveillance, like
Yes.
facial recognition systems, health codes tracking during COVID time, online monitoring? How much do you know about these systems? And do you think living in this environment under what I just described is
Mhm.
something you'd want to?
Well, so no, I don't like that. And you know, I don't want to give the impression that I'm like uncritically supportive of like everything that the Chinese government does or everything in China or whatever. That's like, you know, um that's never been my point of view. But um so yes, I'm aware that there's an extensive surveillance state. Um, I'm aware that there's a social credit system, um, which I'm not exactly sure because like the memes about the social credit, like even in my videos, there's like the social credit bar going up, and then it like you know gives us like a firework, which is like you know is just to be like funny or whatever. But uh, I think the thing about that is most of that stuff and like I don't want to just like wave this away by saying like oh we've got our own version of that or whatever, but like it does really like surveillance state like we have that here and like social credit system like you know we have the FICO score which is like seems almost like less logical and like more random. Like that's like a private entity that assigns you a score that determines your ability to do all kinds of stuff. Like I don't know, it's like it's almost kind of ickier to have it just be like a private entity that has their own prerogative for giving you the number versus the government. It's almost kind of like grosser in some ways. Um, I'm very reticent of like how to put this having like I don't want to have like this full-throated endorsement of like all these Chinese systems that I haven't lived under and like piss someone off that lives in China and is like oh yeah, oh yeah, easy for him to say or whatever. So like, I guess I'll just recenter it on like my like the systems that I've been living under my entire life. And like in terms of surveillance, like we in the US we have constitutionally enshrined freedom of speech, right? I think it's one of the best things that we have in terms of like that's remarkable. People don't realize how rare that is, and I think it's but the issue with that is that it's being eroded so rapidly and in ways where like, okay, yes, the freedom of speech is still constitutionally enshrined, but you functionally can't say certain things. And so like everything in America, there's like a tiered system for like talking now, where like at the if you're wealthy enough, I suppose like none of this stuff matters, but like if you notice on platforms where the people will say like sewer slide or unalive or whatever kind of like weird euphemisms that are more disturbing than just saying the actual word that you're trying to describe. Then so there's like there's self-censorship creeps in because of social pressure. Not even social pressure, just like terms of service, so like I want to be able to promote my like business or whatever I'm working on, so I need to like adhere to these really strict guidelines for conduct. And that's so and then also we have things like Palantir and stuff work with like government contracts which are creating like surveillance state surveillance capitalism, which is like I mean, I don't know, like I can't compare the two because like these things are kind of a black box in both cases, but like the level of surveillance that we have here for private interests alone is like as strong as it could possibly be. I mean, it's like if they want to know anything about you, for the purposes of retargeting for an ad or something, it's like it's right there. And I think also here, if the government wants to know anything about you, like they absolutely can too. Like I don't think that I don't really see there being like I don't know how there could be like a huge distinction in terms of the level of privacy you would have because it's like non-existent in both places. But the like a big difference is that like our speech is still for now enshrined in our constitution, which does provide at least like something of a stopgap. But I mean, my God, like you've seen, I'm sure you're aware of like the university students who have gotten like deported for speaking about like in favor of Palestine. Like, does that seem like free speech is constitutionally enshrined? Does that seem like a place that has like constitutionally enshrined free speech? Not really, not to me. If you're under threat of losing your housing for speaking out against an initiative the government is taking, I don't really see like so we're definitely trending in an extremely authoritarian direction here. That's not really like praise for China. That's more just like saying, the distinctions might be getting a little blurrier in terms of like who has more surveillance these days. So.
Well, I feel like we're in similar generation, right? That's why I'm also just curious about what young Americans nowadays think about these things between the two countries. Yeah, in terms of what I think, have you ever heard of VPN?
Mm-hmm. Like a virtual private network,
Oh, it's the Great Firewall. Have you ever heard of it?
yeah.
It's something to help to break that. So in
Yeah.
China, Google, YouTube um, are not accessible without a paid or sometimes unpaid VPNs. That's
Hmm.
just one small example of what people are experiencing right now in
Hmm.
terms of the surveillance system.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say, you know what?
You wouldn't,
One thing that does seem different is like in China, I would say censorship happens directly, like in terms of like the government top down saying this is banned. You know, like there's the like the Winnie the Pooh thing is like a classic example, a great firewall, whatever. These things are banned, no good. These are illegal now. Whereas I would say here censorship happens more by information deluge, right? Where let's say we don't want um I think Israel and like the conflict in Gaza is a very good example where like rather than saying it's illegal to talk about um it's illegal to like say free Palestine or something, you know, it's not outright, but there's instead of banning the ideas that you're in opposition to, you have the US media apparatus release like just a torrential flood of information that supports the your agenda, right? And it becomes so much free access to information that it becomes very difficult to parse what the truth is. So it's more of like a counterintelligence media offensive rather than a defensive, like, you can't, like, we need to make sure people don't mention this and this and this and this. So I'd say that's like
so you still want to
it's
become Chinese if this is
oh
what part of it.
hey, you know, maybe not. Maybe I couldn't maybe I wouldn't like it very much. However, uh um I don't know. It it could be better. It could be preferable to what we're experiencing here. It could be much worse, you know, because it's very difficult. Like I think whether you were a Chinese person trying to understand what America is like, having not be there, or an American person trying to understand what China is like, having not be there, there's a ton of propaganda to parse through both ways. So
Mm,
that's why I don't really wanna. I'm not really
yeah.
I'm not here to I'm not here like people do accuse me though since the song came out, you know, which of me being like bankrolled by the Chinese Communist Party, and I do want to go on record as saying that is not true. I have never I kind of I've although I kind of wish they would cut me a check. That'd be cool. I do need some money. But just kidding. But yeah, no, it's no, it was not a propaganda initiative. This is like a song I made in my bedroom that I thought was like funny. It was not, there's not like some there's not this I'm not I but I did think it was funny though that to be accused of being like a propagandist for the Chinese Communist Party. I was like, man, bro, I've never even like been to this country and like people I think because there's so many like real conspiracies now, people kind of see like most things as a conspiracy, even though if it's just like a small artist making like a viral song by accident, you know? So
Mm.
yeah.
So if they ask you to talk about China's greatness,
Mm.
you do it.
Well, um, the China's greatness. Um, uh, I mean, I'm not gonna like say anything that I don't believe, and I've never been to China. If I went there and I like was like, oh yeah, it's like how I feel, you know, then I would be like, sure, but I would just say that like for free. Like, you know, I talked about how much I like visiting Japan, and no one's paid me to say that. I just enjoy it over there. So I
So
don't know.
but you are comfortable with them writing about you on the
What
state
are they
media.
saying? I'm so curious. What are they like? Do
Let me find out. So they said California singer releases song with lyric I'm tired of not being Chinese amid becoming Chinese trend. Daniel Kairoff, a singer from California, the US, released a song titled Finally Turn Chinese, in which he raps, I'm tired of not being Chinese. The track's Instagram video has drawn over 700,000 reviews, according to the New York Times.
Mhm. Oh, that's funny. That must have come out after the Times article. Because
Mhm.
yeah, that's interesting. Because I didn't think the like video itself had like made it to China, but I get that like what
And
they're
they
writing there sounds almost like directly paraphrased from what the Times wrote. So,
and they did put your video up there,
oh,
20
nice.
seconds.
Yeah, well, I've got no issue with that. Anyone can write, anything they want about me as long as it's not a lie. I don't care. As far as being like a mouthpiece for somebody, I don't know. I'd probably be pretty reticent to do that, but I don't know. Get me a house in Guangzhou or Chongqing by the river, you know. It's might be a different story, So, like I'm not made of stone. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. Yeah. But no, no, I don't think I would do that.
Well, now that you mentioned Guangzhou, I actually wanted to ask this question as well. So we talked about the digital surveillance, right? And
Hmm.
there has been widely reported cases about factory workers in China, for example, the Foxconn factories
Hmm.
that manufacture electronics, where there were worker protests and even suicides over the years.
Yeah.
Um, have you heard about Chinese people struggling with this kind of factory working situation, this kind
Y-
of news? And do you believe this kind
Yeah.
of news? And
Uh, yeah, and it's probably like much worse than gets reported, right? I mean, usually like labor stuff kind of works like that, right? Where what you actually hear about is like tip of the iceberg, So, and I'm very strongly like I care a lot about like labor politics and I'm very much in favor of um workers' rights and very pro-union and very pro laborer, and that's kind of the supposed to be the point of like socialism or communism or anything, is these are labor movements. Um, I think yeah, I mean industrializing a country rapidly is not pleasant, and it's not nice for most people involved, and that's just that's the case in any country that's industrialized rapidly. It's not an excuse, that's just the way it is. It's the same way in Russia. Um uh I mean it's yeah. Yeah, I mean
so when
that sucks. It's tragic, and there's uh I would be very much in favor of like better uh uh la stronger protections for labor and the rights of workers. Yeah, I mean that kind of thing is terrible. So I do see statistics like, you know, like I don't know if this is true, like over 90% home ownership. That seems that's pretty cool. I wish we had that. I mean, I don't know what the statistic here is, but like I know for young people, it's like 14% for like people like 35 and under. Um, or less. Like, or no, wait, it was like something like the average, like in terms of 35-year-old people, right? Which is like the age you typically start a family. It was like, it used to be like 70% had homes, in the 50s or something. And now it's down to like sub 14%. Like it's like extremely rare to be like enfranchised and which is kind of ironic because like there's supposed to be like, no private property under communism or whatever, but like actually we're kind of we kind of have that issue here where there's no private property, just in a way where the markets become too extractive to like bear the burden of individual home ownership almost, which is pretty sad. So so I I mean ideal uh society, right? If we're wish casting about utopia and stuff, I think you would have like the level of you would have like a strong level of enfranchisement in terms of like, bringing lifting people out of poverty, but you would be able to accomplish that without like exploitative slave-like conditions, right? I think that would be a pretty good benchmark to try and hit for so and I don't know how realistic that is to accomplish. It's definitely not realistic to accomplish while you're trying to industrialize like a billion plus person country. So yeah.
Hmm.
That's my rambling and hopefully somewhat nuanced answer for you. So
After all we discussed, do you still want to post or join the trend of becoming Chinese?
well, I mean, like I said, my memes are not really like a full-throated endorsement of like everything China does or whatever. It's more like, I mean, do I still wanna do I still like my song? Yeah. I mean, do I still think the videos are funny? Like, yeah, of course. And uh uh do I still want to visit China? Yeah. I mean, I would say like my opinion hasn't really changed on too much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
That will be all.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, it was really nice talking to you.